I'm Henrique Olifiers. I have been a game developer who is making games for almost 35 years now. I'm getting old on this. Anyway, I started my journey as a bedroom coder developing games for the ZX Spectrum 8-bit computer. I think back in the day it was big here in Poland as well. Then I moved on to the Amiga. I was part of the demo scene, pushing the limits of the hardware on that platform. But what really moves me, what really makes me happy is designing multiplayer games. And my first multiplayer game was back in the 90s, was a MUD, basically what we call a multi-user dungeon. So I will have this server, people will dial in directly before the internet, and I will have phone lines, people will dial in and play together in this text adventure. Basically, MUDs are the grandfather of MMORPGs. So every time you play World of Warcraft or RuneScape, you are playing something of a kernel of a MUD. So you can imagine how hard game design is for MUDs, right? And I am known as well as a game designer for online games like FIFA Superstars, Heroes and Vampires, and Monster Mine, who won a big award in the UK called the BAFTA. So I am about game design, right? Today I have founded my own studio, Bossa Studios, which we make a few games we're going to talk about. I'm also the chairman of Tiny Build, which by now you all know very well. And in my spare time, I am a maker. I make kickstart on crowdfund on old computers and launch them again with renewed hardware, in this case, the ZX Spectrum Next. Some of the games you probably heard of that I was involved with is RuneScape, an MMO, or FIFA. I worked on a bit of those. And Bossa is the maker of Surgeon Simulator, I Am Bread, I Am Fish, and some of these weird games that won a few awards, etc. And Bossa is a particular place because every month we do game jams. Every single month, everybody in the studio stops and do game jams. And that means that every year we go through around 100 games, of which I'm also involved. So it's not like I stopped making games 35, 20 years ago. Every month I get involved in 1 or 2 games at the studio, and I work with designers which are more talented than me, and I stay current and I stay fresh. It's important because I want to talk about a lot of game design today, and I don't want you to think that the stuff I'm talking about is 20 years old. No, it's very much from today, right? And this design work has won plenty of awards. We are well recognized by our games and by the industry, so we're doing something right. Today you're going to talk about something which is very, very important on our methodology of game design, and something that I use every time I work on a new game, which is called the pillars of a game. And I will explain why I think that it's important for everybody to know about them and what pillars can do for you and your team when you're working on your own game. This is actually a deeper dive into the pillars. If you go online on YouTube and look for the DevGAMM Lviv last year, I made a talk there which talked about loads of game design tools, several of them. And one of these game design tools was the pillars, which is the most important, the most powerful one. I got a lot of feedback, I got a lot of questions of people emailing me and asking for more information about the pillars, and this is why I'm talking about them exclusively today. So there are several game design tools to help you make the games better, but none is more powerful than the game pillars. And I hope that this session will help you understand why that is. So in a nutshell, what are pillars? Pillars are concepts that build your game vision and upon which every single feature that you add to the game are built on top. So the pillars are the elephants here, right? They are supporting all the game features that you design for your game. So every time you start to think about the vision of your game, you are thinking about the pillars already, but that doesn't mean that you are using them. In order for them to be powerful, you have a methodology where you write them, where you communicate them with people in order to explore the power that the pillars present to you, right? I will use an example of a game so you understand exactly what I mean by pillars, right? Miyazaki, a game designer responsible for the Dark Souls series, Demon Souls, Elden Ring, etc., he once got stuck on a snowstorm with a flat tire, and he couldn't move the car out of that. A bunch of strangers stopped their car, helped him get out of that, right? And then they got into their car and went away. That's where the idea of summoning other players to help you came from, right? And if you think about this, every single feature on the Souls series, Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Bloodborne, etc., is designed from that perspective. right? The difficulty levels are very hard. Those series are known to be very hard games because if you get stuck, you can summon 1 or 2 other players that will help you go forward. So balance of the weapons is done thinking about that. The bosses are designed thinking about that. Level design in that game is sort of thinking about the ability to summon other players or other players invade your world. So the ability to summon a player into your Souls game is one of the pillars of the game. And now you see how many other features of those games are built upon that single pillar, how powerful that pillar is. It's not the only pillar of the game, but it's the most important of that game. You imagine what would be of the Dark Souls series if you took away that pillar. It wouldn't be the game that you know, and probably wouldn't be a success. So this is how powerful pillars are for a game. But pillars are not, by themselves, don't work. You need more than that. You need to be able to communicate to your team what a pillar is. And I'm going to show you why that is important, right? Here is Lady Gaga. Everybody knows Lady Gaga, knows what she stands for, right? But imagine Lady Gaga as a pillar, okay? And you go to a team and say, hey, let's make a game about Lady Gaga, and you walk away. You gave them the pillar and you walked away. What will happen? So Joe knows Lady Gaga as an actress. So he's going to make a game which is about acting, right? But Mary, on the other end, she knows Lady Gaga as a singer. So she will make a game about singing. It's completely different from Joe's game. Mary thinks that Lady Gaga is a fashion icon. So she will make a game about fashion, right? And Alan thinks of Lady Gaga as an individual because she follows her on Twitter or whatever. So she's connected to what she does every day. So a pillar in itself doesn't help. What you need is the ability to communicate to the team what exactly that pillar is and do that every single day. Otherwise, people will get the pillar, they will read the pillar in different ways, and the end result will be that they will come up with completely different things, right? And if you work on game design before, if you work on game production before, which is the case with everybody involved, this is where a lot of things get wrong in game production, right? There's nothing worse for a team than individuals not being on the same page, working on different ways and going in different directions. This happens a lot, and this is why sometimes smaller teams produce more authentic and more powerful games than larger teams, because it's easier for those smaller teams to look about each other and communicate what they're thinking about. But when you scale a team to 30, 40 people, it's very hard for everybody to maintain the same shared knowledge of a single thing, right? But fear not, because there is a methodology for us to make sure that everybody's on the same page with the pillars. And this is what I'm going to talk for you today. So I present you what we call the PPP tool, right? Which stands for Players, Promise, and Potential. So imagine a game, say Mario Kart, okay? What is the promise, the game promise of Mario Kart? You will race against your friends or your family, right? Inside the world of the Mario and the Nintendo. And you're familiar with the things, the power-ups and things that are there because you have played other Nintendo games before, or the Mario games, right? But you have to always look back because someone can take your lead. It's not like any other racing game that once you are in the lead, the only thing you have to worry about is not crashing, right? No, here, everybody else can take the lead from you. It's anyone's game until the very last. So, what are the pillars of this game? First is a Nintendo and Mario brand. That's a core pillar of the Mario Kart, right? It's a differentiator because no other game can do that. No other game owns those IPs and those characters. And it's an advantage because everybody loves those characters. The second pillar is more chaotic fun than competition. Think about it. This is not Forza, right? I'm not just racing against other players. It's more chaos. Things happen, people laugh, and power-ups that you didn't expect that got thrown at me, right? It's not just about driving. There's a lot of chaos. And that differentiates it from Gran Turismo, from Forza, and from other racing games. There is a medium skill ceiling, which means that anyone who plays the game can get better. The more you play, you can advance on the game. It's not just casual. There is some depth into the game, right? And that's a staple of the genre. Every single racing game, the more you play, the better you get at that particular track that you are playing. And last, there is a low skill floor. Anyone can play this game, right? Even your mom can pick up, even your grandfather can pick up. It's a very easy game to play. That means that it's a casual staple, which means that it's very mainstream. One of the reasons why it's so popular and so many people play it is because it's very easy to pick up and play. So these are the 4 pillars that I, as a game player of Mario Kart, as a designer, I look at it and say, those are probably 4 pillars that could be used for that game. Maybe there is a 5th that I didn't get, or maybe one of these is wrong. This is just an analysis of myself looking at Mario Kart, right? Now we move on, when we have the pillars. We move on to what we want the player to experience. What are the emotions that the players will experience with which one of these pillars? First, there is a sense of playfulness. It's whimsy. It's not a very serious game, right? No Nintendo game, Mario is not serious. Mario is fun, right? The second is that all the characters are lovable. And you have your favorites, right? Some of these characters are characters that you care about very much and you want to race with them. You recognize other elements of the Nintendo game. So these 3 things that the player feels are related to that pillar. Then there is this other one. There's always surprise. You can't predict everything. There will always be something that you didn't expect. That has to do with the pillar of being chaotic, right? There's always a chance for you to win, even in the last lap, and even if you are last. You get the right power-up, and you can finish first, right? No other racing game does that. But that has to do with the chaos. And crashing is a minor setback. You crash, you're back on the track, your car goes away, and off you go, right? On the skill setting means that getting better mechanics and strategy is rewarding. I know the places I should go and so on, but I feel rewarded as a player when I play it well. Knowing the track, knowing the secrets and the shortcuts is also rewarding. Oh my God, I like this. I know where I should go here. And each race improves the skill of knowledge, as we said before. And lastly, the amount of information is mentally manageable. The UI is not very busy. It gives you a feature at a time. There's not overloads to the player. The controls are manageable. It's just left and right. There's a little bit of button here, right? You can do it with just one of the Joy-Cons. And lastly, there are clear risk and reward moments and decisions that you can make. So these are the emotions that a player will feel and how they relate to the pillars as a game designer that I elected. So what do we do with this now? Once you have done this for your game, you start to list all the features that you want to make. Okay? Any feature that you think about. Oh, high score. Oh, if I miss the jump, I die on the fire. Anything like that. You list all the features here. And this is what we're going to do for Mario Kart now. Some of these features I'm going to list here are not in the game. I have put them in as an example. Some are real, some are not. Okay? Bear with me on that. So, first feature. The tracks have secret item spots. There are places on the track that if you go for secret, you're going to find an item, right? The second, some of the power-ups can backfire. They can actually affect you rather than affect the people you are targeting. Another feature, power slides on the curves gives you a boost. You go faster if you power slide on the curve. Big pile-ups should happen sometimes in the race, like when someone crashes on top, and so on. The cars can be permanently damaged. When you crash, the cars are slow for the rest of the race. That's a feature that is not in the game. Tracks will have narrow and tricky shortcuts. You get the idea, right? We're going to talk about a lot of features that you're placing here. And you go listing all the features that you intend to develop with your fellow team members, all the features that come across your head, things that you like, things that someone else recommended, you list them, right? And this could run into the hundreds, depending on how big your game is. Once you're done listing all the features of the game, here is the power of this tool. You're going to pick a feature, one by one, and see how they correlate with these pillars, right? Some of these features will actually go against the pillars. But the more correlations a feature have with one of the pillars, the more powerful, the more important that feature is. And the least correlation a feature has with the pillars, it means that it's a weak feature that you could probably deprioritize or cut off altogether. Okay? One of the secrets you will find if you do this exercise with games that you have played, if you do this with a game that you like a lot, the features you list here and the correlations, you will see that each feature will touch a lot of those pillars. If you do this with a game that is a failure, a game that you don't like, or a game that scored low, right? You will see one, maybe two correlations. You will see a lot of contradictions of the pillars. And that's the power of this tool. So let's do that. So the first one, the tracks will have secret item spots. It correlates with C, right? Because there are secrets there, there are items that I recognize from other Nintendo games. It also correlates with H. If you learn the track layout, you will know what their secret spots are, okay? And correlates with A, because there's a sense of playfulness. Oh, the track has this shortcut, or there is a whale that goes inside its mouth, and everything is magical, and so on. So it has correlation with 3 emotions related to the pillar, so it's a good feature to have in the game. Some power-ups can backfire and be erratic. This is a big feature of Mario Kart, right? That if you don't use the power-up well, it's going to affect you. You are being the recipient of the suffering of it. And look how many relationships it has, right? It has a relationship with L, which is there clear risk and reward for everything you do. I use this power-up, it can do me well, but it can also harm him. D, which is, there are always surprises. You can predict everything, right? And that has to do with the features, with the power-ups being able to backfire on me. Or E, there's always a chance to win, even the last lap. If I use the right power-up on the last lap, I'm going to shoot up or take the leader out, or I'm going to be in front and I'm going to win the race, and so on. So this is a feature that defines a Mario Kart. It's a powerful feature. And you can see why, because it has more than 4 relationships with the pillars. This feature is interesting. Power sliding on the curves, which is a real feature of Mario Kart, gives you a speed boost. So L means that, all right, there are clear risk and reward. A power slide too much, I can crash, right? H, learning the track layout is rewarding. I know which bends I can now power slide and not. But look at this. It goes against, there's always surprise, you can predict anything, right? Because the more I learn about the places where I can power slide, the less surprising it becomes. So this is opposite to that pillar. It's not a problem. Some features will have opposition to the pillars. It is a problem when the feature only has opposition or have too many oppositions. This kind of feature, when you have everything black or just a black, you should kill it. It's not a feature that fits in your game, right? And I'm going to give you an example on this one. It's this one that I added here for an example, right? The cars can be permanently damaged. I crash, and from then on, the car will be slow forever, right? It will go against 2 pillars already. First, the sense of playfulness is gone, right? Everything now is serious. If I crash, oh, the game is over for me because I'm going to be slow. Everybody else is going to be fast and going to win. F means that is an extremely minor setback, right? This is not an extremely minor setback. It's a big setback. So if someone, but though, it makes sense for G, right? Getting better mechanics and strategy is rewarding. So it's very tempting for someone to say, it's a racing game. If you crash, you're done. Let's put that in, right? But you see that that's not a good idea for this particular game. Yes, it goes against C. Yes, exactly. I should have another black one here. Nice one. Let's spot it. So imagine this as a tool that even before you start to code your first line of code, while you're still discussing the game with your peers and your team members and your friends, you can find out if those features make a game better or make the game worse. And not only that, you can start prioritizing which features go into development and which features go into the backlog, right? I would certainly put this feature here. Power-up abilities are the same in other Mario games. I could put that on the backlog. It's good, it's there, right? But this, if I remove this and the power-ups were exclusive to Mario Kart, the game, the world wouldn't end, right? So this is probably one of the most practical tools that I have on my arsenal as a game designer. As I said, I use a few others that you can find on the other presentation I gave at Lviv, but nothing compares to this. Imagine this as a black box where you put a question and ask, is my game going to be successful? What are the chances of my game being successful? And it gives you an output right there and then, right? And if you do this exercise with your other team members, everybody together, by the way, you should always do this with everybody in the team. It doesn't matter if an artist, QA, developer, producer, everybody should do this together. So we all understand what the game is together. And we can all get out of a system the features that we want to put in the game and find out if that is a good feature or not, right here and there. You don't need to code, you don't need to prototype. You can feel it right here if you're working on the right thing. And this is probably the most powerful thing a game designer or a game producer can have in their stash, right? I hope this helps. If you guys want this template, I'm happy to make it available for everybody. It's not big, right? Any PowerPoint can do this, but I'm happy to send the template about. And I would like to open for questions before time runs out. And these are my details if you want to get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Henrique. We have time for 1 or 2 questions. Are there any questions for the audience?
Thank you for your talk. What do you think about using ChatGPT to create this table?
Sorry?
What do you think about using ChatGPT to create this kind of table, like for your reference games or or your game?
That's a good idea. We'll try that. You know, I was actually last night talking about a game developer who is making an isometric point-and-click adventure using only AI. Right? They're using different tools, Stable Diffusion to generate the graphics, using text-to-voice to generate the text, ChatGPT to power the NPCs. So you interact with the NPCs by open text, right? There's no scripting, there's no dialogue, decision tree. It's open. Very chaotic, doesn't work, but it's beautiful to look at. But these tools will only get better, man. They will not get worse, and they're getting better very fast. So this is an interesting question. We'll throw some of these exercises to ChatGPT to see how long it can follow before it falls on its back. It's probably not very far from doing that, but thank you. Yes?
Thank you very much for the talk. I have a question regarding all the relationships with the features and the pillars, because what I see here is actually the integrity of the whole game.
Yes.
If it's integral with the pillars. But I have a thought, and I would like to hear your thoughts on that. For me, it seems like the main drawback that we miss some integrity is that we miss it. But what about placing the features that are not in the relationship with pillars, but consciously? That we know that it contradicts the pillars, but we do it either way because we want to do something else. And what would be your thoughts on, about this
That's
one?
an interesting thought, because I certainly played games where there is a feature that is so weird that doesn't match with anything else of the game. But that gives the game some personality, right? That game comes up because, oh, that is super weird. But it is I never seen a feature which is at the core of the game that contradicts the pillars, and it works, right? I give you an example if you are familiar with, I do this exercise with not only my games, I do with other games like I did here, right? And I did it once with an early version of Hunt Showdown. And one of the things about Hunt Showdown is that you spend a lot of time PvE. You're hunting the monsters with your friends and killing the monsters, right? There are other players there, other groups of players that want to kill you, but you seldom interact with them until you kill the last monster and you broadcast your position to all the other players. Then it becomes a battle royale, right? They will camp, they will try to kill you, etc. That feature, which defines that game, has a lot of black stuff. Why? Because during all the game, I'm PvEing, I'm going after the monsters, etc. I'm being stealthy. Now all of a sudden, it's a PvP game. Everybody wants to kill me. They are camping at my exit spot. So the experience is very jarring, right? And I'm sure that's a big point of churn for that game. But it's also the hallmark of that game, that it changes from PvE to PvP halfway through. So yes, it can be present, right? But it's a design choice. It's a statement, I would say, that you are making if you go that way.
Thank you for the talk. So I have this kind of question. I have a pillars, like the set, and then we with team do a brainstorm, and it turns out we have a lot of black stuff in our ideas, but we really want those ideas. Should we go and change the pillars, or should we just change the ideas to?
Oh, that's a very good question. Very good question. When you have a game vision and you elect the pillars of that game vision that support that game vision and make the game, you are defining your game, right? If you go here and every feature doesn't fit and there's something wrong with the pillars, perhaps I would say there's something wrong with the vision of the game. And you can, of course, change the pillars, right? But you have to make sure that when you change the pillars, you're not changing the pillars just to fit the features. You're changing the pillars to get a better vision of the game, if you see what I mean, right? Because otherwise it's cheating and you won't achieve the same result. Features should be dependent on the pillars and not the other way around, right? It's like saying, you know what, I'm gonna climb Mount Everest. I decided that, that's my pillar, I'm gonna go, right? And then halfway through, it's hard, it's this and that. Oh my God, my leg hurts, I'm out of oxygen. You know what? We're just going to climb that mount over there, 100 meters. It's not the same, right? So, yeah. I would change pillars now and then, right? 1 or 2. But if I have to change everything, it's probably a problem with the game concept and what you're trying to achieve at its core. So be careful if you have to do that.
Thank you very much. If you have any more questions, I'm sure Henrique will be happy to answer them if you find him in the hallway. Also, you can find him on his socials. Give your socials again. Give a round of applause for Henrique.
Thank you, folks.